Hello, wonderful people. We're starting chapter 1, the history and analysis of walking on water. Now, before we begin probing into these scriptures, we must first come to an understanding of the history of walking on water. However, at this point, we must draw a blank because there's actually no recorded history of walking on water outside of the biblical account. There's walking underwater, as early scuba divers once did. There's walking above the water, as people do in airplanes and water-spanning bridges and ocean liners and possibly even water skiing, but you can't really say water skiing is walking on the water because it's basically hydroplaning. There is walking through parted waters as described in the biblical records in Exodus 14:22 and in 2 Kings 2:8. Exodus 14:22 reads, "And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall upon them on their right hand and on their left." 2 Kings 2:8 reads, "And Elijah took his mantle and wrapped it together and smote the waters, and they were divided hither and thither, so that they too went over on dry ground." Now to me, this is not walking on top of a liquid surface. It's dry ground. But let's continue. There is also walking around the waters, but all these thoughts are more or less walking around the issue. Now let's examine the word walk. Common dictionaries define the word walk as to walk and advance on foot in such a way that some parts of the footing is always on the surface being traveled on and or across. Other definitions include to travel on foot for exercise or amusement, to proceed, lead, ride, or drive slowly, to act or live in some manner as to walk in peace, to appear in the form of a ghost, to pass through, over, under, across, around, to and fro, to accompany with, proceed on foot, and in baseball it's the first base advance having been pitched for balls. Other usages include to depart or to walk off, to steal or take without permission, to walk off with, to take unfair advantage of, or to walk on or walk all over, to break a commitment or forsake, desert someone, like as to walk out on them, to win something as to walk off with. It also refers to a career, a profession, chosen field of action or pursuit, like a walk of life. Forms of walk include things like a walkaway, a contest without serious opposition, a walkie-talkie, which is a portable electronic audio transceiver, a walking stick or a cane. A walk-on in drama is a performer having a small part, also the part. A walk-out is a worker strike, walking papers, notice of dismissal or termination of employment. Other forms of walk include to abandon or accompany, to actuate, to advance, to aid, to err, to ambulate, to ascend forward,
to hustle, to circuit, to cruise along, to depart, to escort, to file off, to forge ahead, get a move on, to get going, to go or go to head for, to hike, to hop along, to hurry, to impel, to jaunt, to jump to it, to lead on, to leave, to locomote, to make tracks, to tread on, and this is very important, to tread on, to tread over, to tread through, to tread water, to march, to mince away, to move, to mush, to not around or to not about, to pace, to pass, to patrol, to preambulate, to press on, to print, to progress, to proceed, to promenade, to propel, to push, to ramble on, to roll, to saunter, to set in motion, to shove along, to shuffle, to skedaddle, to split, to start, to step, to stop, to stride, to stride forward, to stroll around, to take off, to tear on, to trace, to track, to trail, to tramp, to trace about, to track, to trample, to transcend, to travel, to traverse, to trek is another good one, to trudge, to turn away,
and to wander. All these definitions and usages of the word walk are all fine and nice, but let's check out and examine the biblical usages. Let's check out the biblical accounts where they're used. There is, ironically, only one apparent historical account of walking on top of water. It's written within only 3 biblical records: the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and John. They read as follows out of the King James Version. Matthew 14:24 reads, "But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the 4th watch of the night Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit, and they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, He walked on the water to go to Jesus, but when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me! And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? The passage of Mark 6:45 begins, and straightway he constrained his disciples to get into the ship and to go to the other side before unto Bethsaida, while he sent away the people. And when he had sent them away, he departed into a mountain to pray. And when even was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. And he saw them toiling and rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. And about the fourth watch of the night, he cometh unto them, walking upon the sea, and could have passed by them. But when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, and cried out, for they all saw him, and were troubled. And immediately he talked with them, and said unto them, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased, and they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered. The third account starts within the Gospel of John 6:16. And when even was come, his disciples went down unto the sea, and entered into the ship, and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. And the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea, and drawing nigh unto the ship, and they were afraid. But he said unto them, It is I, be not afraid. Then they willingly received him into the ship, and immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. Now, the records of the events before and after are significant. These will be covered in the following chapters. So hang with me for chapter 2. This was a fast one, easy. We're going to get a little more into the meat of the Word of God.